Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Near Mint Condition. Today we are going to be talking about Venom, the movie, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today Omar and I are joined by Maddie, and we just got done watching Venom, and we are going to go ahead and talk about it today. Now, this will be a spoiler-free review up to a certain point, so what will happen in the description below, you'll see a marker where the spoilers begin. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, just know that's where you need to cut off the video at. But other than that, let's go ahead and talk about this wonderful adaptation of the Venom comics.
Venom. So, a quick little history of Venom. It's kind of a silly origin that it started off with the symbiote costume, and he appeared in Secret Wars 8, joined Spider-Man, and then later on, Spider-Man was like, no, I don't like you, you're trying to eat people, or whatever. And the costume went on to do his own thing. Meanwhile, Eddie Brock was embarrassed by Peter Parker at the Daily Bugle because he had outed the Sin Eater. That was the name of the villain. And he got the wrong guy, and Peter Parker embarrassed him, so he was going to go commit suicide because of that at a church. And the symbiote joined with him, and they were Venom, and they're like, yeah, let's go kill Spider-Man and eat brains. And that was pretty much the origin of Venom. That has nothing to do with this movie at all.
Nope, not at all.
I think the Ryan Reynolds Life movie had something more to do with this movie than that. So why don't you two ladies go ahead, and I'll save my thoughts for last.
So, overall, I'll just give my overall impression of the movie. Basically, and I think all of us have agreed, they never really knew where they were going with this movie. So let's just give it a brief view. You have Tom Hardy, who plays Eddie Brock, right? Mm-hmm. And he is a journalist, just like he is in the comics. And he's with Anne Weying, and she's a attorney whose firm works for the Life Foundation. And pretty much the story centers around his interaction with Riz Ahmed's character, Carlton Drake, who is the owner of the Life Foundation, and the symbiotes who were captured and come down in his rocket, and how they bond and the fun adventures they go on and self-realization that goes through the movie.
Yeah, so I didn't read any reviews before I came in to see it. I've also never read Venom. No, I also haven't read a Spider-Man comic yet. I've just read comics
we need
with
some
Spider-Man.
old reader, new readers assignments
yeah,
here.
So my only thing I knew about Venom was from, the cartoon show and Spider-Man 3.
Surprisingly enough, that's probably more accurate than the movie was as far as Venom.
The movie is not good. It's a big old mess. And I think mostly due to what I felt was I felt like they know what they're going with the story overall, but they didn't know how to give the characters proper motivation at any time. So that was my biggest struggle with it. It was just like, here's a character and they're going to do this. Here's a character and they're going to do this. And I was left feeling like, why?
Yeah.
And a lot of these characters weren't consistent as far as their personalities and their motivations. It was just kind of whatever. And also the dialogue was just all over the place.
Like a turd in the wind.
That being said, I had fun.
Yeah,
it was not good, but it was, at the end of the day, I didn't.
It was
feel
enjoyable.
drained.
Now, the first half of the movie, I think the problem was the execution, right, of the film itself. The first half of the movie was kind of slow, in my opinion, and then once we got to Venom, for me, it sped up and it was more exciting, and it was more fun. Which, since I also never read any Venom, I've read Spider-Man, but none of the Spider-Man I read had Venom in it yet. It had all the other villains, so I thought he'd be more of a bad guys. So I was interested. I never saw him as the anti-hero, so I was interested to see that was the take they went with it. So I was expecting more of a horror element, more of a villain-esque element, so I was surprised by the comedic tone of the movie. Not that I didn't enjoy the comedic tone of the movie, but I just wasn't expecting it.
It was jarring. Because again, I wasn't expecting that, and I really enjoyed it, but it was set up in a way that when that happened, and when Venom was talking more, and being kind of silly in a way, not silly on purpose, just silly as far as all that was going, it was just like, oh, wait, okay. Or is this like a flubber situation? I don't understand.
Flubber.
I love that you put flubber
I was trying to think of something that's like, I don't know, out of the, like, surprisingly goofy and odd. you
Yes.
know?
I think jarring is probably the best way to describe how I felt about the dialogue. I know you're describing something else entirely, the comedic tone of Venom talking in the inside of Tom Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't expecting him to be goofy either. You know, sometimes you have to take yourself out of the movies and like I was going in with like, okay, well, let's see what this is about. Obviously, this has nothing to do with Spider-Man, so let's see if this movie is enjoyable. But even taking myself out of that movie, I feel like the dialogue was so forced and so earthy for a alien creature to come down and joke around, things like that, like certain name calling that he did to, and I'm like, how does he even know what that is? Like that's the kind of
using the
questions,
word loser, right?
right? And you know, you suspend your disbelief when you're watching movies about a fucking alien that is going around and killing people or taking over their bodies or eating their heads, but there's just certain things that I'm like, that's not right. But that's probably because of the dialogue.
Yeah.
And that's
They were trying to be
thing.
funny and edgy almost, but it just failed a lot of
They
the
were trying
times.
to be edgy.
If they had taken time to explain how symbiote works at all, or again, explaining any character at all, I think there could have been an instance in the movie where they better explained, oh, okay, so when a symbiote combines with something, it's not just that their body becomes one and that he can use their memories or thoughts, but also obtain certain like vernacular and I don't know, jokes or way of speaking.
Maybe
then that would make
that's the
sense.
That's
way
the only
this
thing that made sense.
So you all brought up something that reminded me of what I didn't like about it. I feel like at one point the editor of this movie just said, screw it, I have no idea what they want me to do with this. I feel like he was giving a 4-hour cut of a movie, and they were like, look, make this into 2 hours at most.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, cool, what do I cut? Because it doesn't make any sense. Like they're... And I feel like he gave up because there are scenes in the movie where it's like daylight 1 second and it's nighttime. And that's usually when you're going into a movie, that takes you out. You're like, how the hell did this happen? And that happened quite a lot. The pace of the movie was so fast because I feel like a lot of things were cut out.
They cut a lot out.
That I don't have any time to develop any feelings for Anne and Tom. Oh, something happens to them. Oh no.
And you know
they
what?
were just like kissing a minute ago, and that's the only thing I know about their relationship.
And what's funny is, earlier, if anyone watching pre-interviews, right, with Tom Hardy and the rest of the cast.
I watch absolutely nothing about this except for the Lady Gaga takedown of the Venom
her
movie.
stands and
We
their
probably should have seen the Lady Gaga movie, though, just saying.
Yeah, Stars Born probably would have been phenomenal. But what I find so interesting, if anyone watched any of those, the big headline, I guess, was Tuesday, was Tom Hardy in an interview saying, all my favorite scenes to film were cut. And I guess Riz Ahmed tried to, make a joke, oh, that's not true, but it almost makes you think, not that, what did they cut? Are you serious, Tom Hardy? Is it true that there was stuff cut? If you think that's...
Originally, they were going to do a rated R movie, and I
they
feel like a
pared it
lot of
back.
the things that they talked about when he was, eating people's heads, I feel
There
like
could have
that
been a
was...
lot more blood.
That was probably shown in the rated R version,
Yes.
and they probably should have stuck to that because it felt like 4 movies coming together, and I don't know... I mean, I enjoyed aspects of it, but it's probably because I think Tom Hardy did a good job with what he had to do
Although
with.
he still mumbles in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, there was a lot of instances where I couldn't understand him.
Oh, but that's his
That's
funny
Tom Hardy.
ad-libbing, I guess, when they were like, "Hey, do something funny." I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was kind of charming. The lovable idiot in
yeah.
a way for some reason is the way he was portrayed a little bit. But everybody else I could care less about.
Yeah,
Like,
let's talk about that a little bit.
There's not
the characters
a single
and
character
the actors
in the movie that I'm like, oh, I could see them go and die. I would be okay with that.
Well, these are all on their own. These are all very good actors.
Yes,
of
they
them.
are.
Oh, yeah.
They have great.
They're
I'm
very
sure they are.
accomplished. They've been in very good movies
and TV
I
shows.
think they were given a weird script. I think it was cut weird. I just think they were given weird direction. I think that's across the board.
Yeah.
Everyone, it just felt like soap opera kind of acting or like an infomercial.
Because they didn't know where to go with it.
Because it was like, hello, yes, I am home. I have a case today. I will see you later.
She's talking about Michelle Williams'
Goodbye.
character.
Hey, that was pretty good. I believe that.
It was that kind of forced interaction where it's just like, it didn't make any sense. As if it was like their first run of the movie.
Right. I feel like a lot of the times they were just on their second day of reading that script.
Right.
And
they filmed that scene.
like most of them were like, oh, Venom. What? is that a comic book? Yeah, I'll read it later.
Which I'm, yeah,
like an event, you know, and then
which I don't even know if you needed to.
And yeah, the dialogue took me out of it. That was my main problem with it. As far as the characters, there really isn't a character that stood out to me that I could see come back.
And it's a shame because there's a lot of great actors in it. I mean, when I realized that one of the actors from Veep that I absolutely love was in it, who's Reed Scott, who plays her second boyfriend, the Dr. Lewis. I was so excited to see what he did. And he was meh in the movie. He was just the boyfriend who helps out. Forgettable. And, I mean, even Michelle Williams was forgettable as the heroine.
She was pretty bad in this. So was the villain.
Superheroes.
Oh,
I'm
the
not
villain
gonna,
was...
I'm not going to say who the villain is, but the villain, we'll get to that in the spoilers, but the actor playing the villain, I don't remember seeing this person in particular in anything, but I was like, man, that's really bad. And it could be because of the whole dialogue again. Now, is there any pros that you all can say? Like, I've got a couple, but I'm curious as to what you thought was... You said it was a fun movie.
Yeah, I honestly, like...
Like, fun, like, Ghost Rider fun, or fun, like...
It was goofy.
You would
and it
never
was
see it
bad.
again.
I would watch it again for jokes. Or
Yeah.
like a drinking game. I mean,
Every time they say life?
Every time they say life.
It's not good. It made me want to read Venom.
Oh, wait.
And I never read Venom.
Really? Maybe
but again,
that's
I don't
something.
know what Venom is like in the comics, but I really liked this weird buddy cop romantic comedy between Tom
the
Hardy
symbiote
and
Yes,
Venom.
and that's what it
Eddie
was.
Brock.
Yeah, that's what made it appealing.
If that could be the whole thing, that'd
Yeah.
be great. I just want
And I
those two talking with each other and having this weird relationship.
That's what they probably
That's
should have
great.
stuck with, honestly,
Exactly.
because that was what was working. People were laughing. Again, thought it was weird, but hey, the audience was laughing, and
Yeah, they
know more
enjoyed
than
it.
I do.
Yeah. And I felt like there wasn't,
So you like that aspect of it,
Oh, yeah.
the buddy cop
Yeah.
aspect. Okay, what did you like?
I have to agree with her. It's just that relationship between the two of them.
Okay,
That's probably what I liked the most about it. Now, I actually liked the villain, but I think that's because I like the actor. And I didn't mind him so much. And I think I have to give him a pass. I think it might be the writing more so than his.
Oh, absolutely, it's
and
the
that's
writing.
but yeah, but
it's so over the top, like one-dimensional TV villain. That
and it wasn't even like.
I mean, I get it. It's a comic book movie.
But even with comic movies, if you think about all the Marvel movies,
I'm not even comparing it to other comic book movies. I'm just saying there are better
ways
portrayals of
that
a
kind of
villain than something like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I like?
What'd you like?
I really like the way Venom looked. Because it's so much better than Topher Grace's Venom from Spider-Man 3. Skinny Venom never works for me. I like big, bulky Venom and big gaping mouth and his giant tongue that Eric Larson gave him with a big old slimy thing coming out of it. I thought that was great. Visually, I think it looked good. But you mentioned Flubber, and the graphics of the symbiote itself reminded me of Flubber. I'm like, could they spend like an extra, I don't know, $100 on special effects? Because they looked really crappy. Especially when they're like lined up against the window and trying to attack people.
Oh, yes.
And it reminded me of Life, that horrible movie with Ryan Reynolds. The so-called prequel to this movie. The special effects in that were crap. And I thought, this is the same studio that did it. Because it was really, really crappy. Now, Venom himself looked amazing. And the other thing that appears, when we talk about spoilers, looks amazing too, I thought. But, visually, I think he himself I was happy with. Except
so
for
like the visuals.
It's missing, of course, the symbol, right? Like I wish he had the symbol,
like
he does in the comic books. I think it stands out, but without the Spider-Man, it makes no sense.
Yeah, why
right?
would he have that? Yeah.
Now, seeing something that big, I would love to see him fight Spider-Man.
Oh, 100%.
The tiny Tom Holland character
because
against
he's
this
such
big
a little
Hulk. But I feel like that's not gonna happen in this universe because of the way this character is portrayed, right? He's like, no, Spider-Man is one of the good guys. We can't eat his brain. So there's no reason for them. There's no connection already, right? So there's no reason why he would go after Spider-Man.
But when we talk about
and that's probably not even gonna ever happen, maybe, right? I
think after this movie, I'm not.
Yeah,
sure.
unless.
Well, they want to work on something else. They want to go on and do Morbius.
Yes, with Jared Leto. That's
same thing. I'm like, why are we doing this? Come on, Sony. I know what they're trying to do, but it's just
keep the IP.
Maybe it works better if you guys work as a studio where it's a bigger world, so you can have little cameos, and we'll talk about a
That
surprising
and second.
cameo, a couple of surprising cameos here in a little bit. But yeah, that's it. Visually, I think Venom. I like the way he looked, and I love the way he moved. There were some really cool shots when he's on top of a building at nighttime and the camera's spinning around. It's a classic video game shot, but I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. And then there were other hokey shots where, like, I know that in the trailer they reveal when he's on the motorcycle. And
and
like,
he comes
that
out.
looks really weird and almost out of place. But yeah, that was my pro.
I did know some of the ways they portrayed him. Some of his little visuals reminded me of Spider-Man. I know maybe that's not supposed to be. Just the way he would use the symbiote to...
The webbing?
Yeah, to kind of web. Or when he's standing on top of a building.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way it is, that reminded me of Spider-Man. And I know maybe there's no reason, maybe that's not the reason they would do those different imagery, but I thought that's a fun little nod there.
Now, we went to go see this because we read comic books and are geeks. My question is, who in the hell is going to go see this as a moviegoer that doesn't know that this is related to Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And it's, October. So you're like, oh, it might be a horror movie. Oh, it's PG-13. I've seen a couple that are pretty good. You go in here and it's, this guy is taken over by this alien? What am I watching? Like, I'm wondering who, by word of mouth, will be like, you gotta go see Venom, because it is amazing.
I just don't think word of mouth is going to work for this movie, because the people who are going to watch it the first time are going to be people like us, people who read the comics or enjoy comic book movies.
Yeah.
And if
that's usually opening weekend, no matter what comic book movie is out.
But if they're not,
I'm just wondering what
to their normal
audience
friends
is going to go and watch this movie.
I don't know.
I don't think any normal audience will go out of their way. If people already watched the other Marvel movies and enjoy them, I think they'll go, just because I didn't realize this was a Sony movie. I realized very quickly.
Yes.
But I think most people wouldn't know that. It would just go, oh, okay, it's another Marvel movie. I'm in.
And that's
because all the other ones are so great. So, and they'll go to this one and be like, oh, well, I guess everyone has to have a bad one.
Everyone has to have
but
a
I
flaw.
will say, I'd still rather watch this than some of the DC movies.
We can't compare apples and oranges.
Yeah, we
Well,
can't.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying.
yeah.
At least it was goofy.
It was goofy.
But was it
Dragon
goofy
Ball
on
Evolution
purpose,
goofy.
though? Yeah, was it goofy on purpose?
No, I
Or
think...
was it goofy because they just kind of gave up halfway through it, and you're like,
just
oh,
cut
that's funny.
They just cut
Well,
Well, I think they...
For the wrong reasons.
I think they were trying to make it more of a comedy when they realized
when they realized that that's all they got.
Yeah, when they realized that's all they got. Even Avi Arad, one of the executives at Sony, they even said, possibly, hopefully, he mentioned maybe this would end up in the MCU. He didn't say that's the reason it's PG-13, but he didn't rule that out. He gave it in that double speak, produce or executive type speak, if you will. So I think that's why they were hoping. That's why they pared it down to PG-13, and so I think they went in and tried to edit it to make it a different angle than maybe what it could have been.
It's odd because they mentioned the Daily Bugle in this.
They did,
and I'm like, okay, well, that's Spider-Man universe.
That is.
I mean,
he came from New York. And went to San Francisco. That's what they said about Eddie Brock. So I was like, okay, so he was in New York.
So
okay.
It's like they're trying to maybe,
or
they're giving people like us like little Easter eggs.
That's
Yeah,
probably closer to.
That's probably what it is.
Sadly is all it is. What has this director done? It
yeah.
feels like somebody amateur director.
That's another interesting thing. And maybe if I looked into more, because I thought it was a horror movie right before coming in, or had a lot of horror elements. Mm-hmm. Coming into it, Ruben Fleischer, he actually directed Zombieland.
Which was fun.
With Emma Stone, which is a fun movie. Now I think that was better written, but he didn't write this movie; he just directed it. And then Gangster Squad, which is a whole
the Josh Brolin?
With Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. Yeah, and then Superstore, he was an executive producer for that comedy show on NBC. So obviously now when you look at that, you see, I see where we have the comedic direction.
Interesting choice for a Venom movie.
Yeah.
This movie gave me the same feel that a lot of video game movies or anime live action movies get.
Yeah, totally.
Because it feels like, and this happens a lot with properties like this, where you're given a story that's already existed in comics or anime or video games, and the person doesn't take it seriously. They're like, oh, well, it's just a name, I'll just do whatever with this, no one cares.
It's check, and it's a stepping stone into another project you want to work on.
Exactly, or it's just something in between to do, or whatever. And that's something that, like, the director from Dragon Ball Evolution came back and said later, like, I
It was
I
fun.
didn't realize it was such a big deal, and if I had even looked at the source material really,
Then
I
I
could have made
would've-
something really true to the movie that would have been good. And so these people, they like typically, and I may be reaching here,
Yeah.
but it feels like someone just kind of like, oh, here's the basic story. Whatever. We'll just make this whatever because no one cares.
I think
But
that's
when
the
you
way
do
the
that-
actors were with the dialogue and
Yes.
the way that they
I
delivered their lines. Were
don't-
like, it's Venom. Okay, whatever. I'll read it
that's
tomorrow.
the direction because you have fantastic actors.
Yes.
No.
that are
But I
very
feel like they
intuitive.
didn't take it seriously to read the
Read.
script. Oh, it's
That's
based on
true.
a comic book.
Yeah, like
I'll get to that later.
Like, I didn't see any
When I'm
pictures-
taking a crap,
yeah.
I'll read the script and then I'll go shoot tomorrow.
we didn't see any pictures of Tom Hardy reading Venom like we did with, Benedict Cumberbatch reading Doctor Strange. I mean,
Yeah,
we just
that's
don't know
true.
if they're reading the source material at all,
But I believe actors will take it as seriously as the directors want them to.
and that's the key.
So if you have directors and writers that show actual passion for the project and passion for the origins of that project,
Yes.
then you'll have actors that also commit.
Yeah.
And I felt like you had bad leadership at the top. People who didn't care about the original project that were like, whatever.
No,
He's
that's
a
a good point.
journalist. Here's Venom. Nobody's going to care. They just want the action. But
People are
then-
going to go see this movie because it has Marvel on it and they're
Yeah.
going to think Spider-Man. So, the spoiler part.
Spoiler part.
So the entire movie, Riot is the villain, right? So Riot
Yes.
is one of these off-brand symbiote characters that
Which is
appears
Carlton
in
Drake.
the Venom Lethal Protector miniseries, collected in this Venomibus, by the way, where Venom decides to become good. And it's just one of the symbiotes that start attacking him, like Toxin and all the other female symbiotes. And I'm like, of all the villains they went with that guy? Okay, whatever. But then everybody's like, okay, where's Carnage? Where's Cletus Cassidy? And then at the very end, you get to see him. You don't see Carnage, but you see Cletus Cassidy, and it's played by Woody Harrelson with a horrible Bob Ross wig.
like an Annie wig.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it's so bad.
And I'm like,
it's a terrible wig.
I enjoyed Carnage better than I did Venom in the comic books, just because he's a psychopath and he's kind of like the Joker. He doesn't have a reason for killing people. He just loves killing. And actually, when he first appears, a guy's asking him, like, why are you doing this? And he says, because I can. And I remember reading it as a kid. I'm like, that's some dark shit. But it was just such an odd cast to have Woody Harrelson. Like, the guy's, like, almost 60.
Remember, Ruben Fleischer directed Zombieland.
No, I get it, but they could have casted a no-name and the guy could have said something.
Oh, yeah.
And the delivery of that line about, I'm going to bring Carnage, just a little too much. I don't need it thrown in my face. I get it. We know who you are. Maybe other fans don't. You need it thrown in their face.
You have
They
had
for other fans.
for people who don't. Yeah, if
It
they
reminded
can't
me
bring
of
it up-
that little thing at the very end of Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, that really pissed me off when they were like, oh, you should use your real name, Robin.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why'd you just call him Dick Grayson?
his name's not Robin.
Anyway, so that was one of my gripes about the movie. And I talked about how visually it looked really good, but the fight scenes were so freaking confusing when the two symbiotes, Riot and Venom, are fighting.
Yeah,
Because
they
it's
kind of look the same.
they look the same, and
I
it's
really
always
it's hard
to tell the
And it's
difference.
nighttime, and there's just glares everywhere, and spiky things everywhere, and just a bunch of tentacles going everywhere.
and then there's like
and,
they come apart and come together, and
I'm like,
it's a big
okay,
old mess.
somebody's having like, you just graduated from like graphic design school, and you're having a lot of fun, but I'm like trying to keep up, and I couldn't. It was just
It was
too-
hard to see.
I hate to say this, but it was almost too much for me. Those were my biggest gripes. That and Stan Lee only has a limited amount of time left in this world. And I feel like a cameo in this movie, just not time well spent. He doesn't even know who Venom is. If anybody, you should have like Todd McFarlane or David Michelini, Tom DeFalco, one of the guys that wrote the stuff that, everybody knows who Stan Lee is. And if that's your pull,
I honestly think the only reason they put him is because when people think Venom, they think Spider-Man, and since he created Spider-Man,
I get it, but
that's why they put him in there. So Riz Ahmed plays Carlton Drake, and he plays Riot. He ends up being Riot. So Riot goes on this. Is it a trek? It's not a trek through the entire United States, right? It was 6 months worth of walking.
I don't know.
So I don't know.
The
where
editing
he
was
came-
so odd.
So I don't know where the crash was. I'm still trying to figure that out.
They came
Was
in.
it Florida?
They tried to say, I don't really know where. Well, no, because the crash was in an Asian country.
No,
Because
he had to walk though, didn't he?
yeah,
Okay, I guess he
Yeah,
could have
so
No,
taken
he
a
was
boat.
at the airport when
eventually.
he
Oh, that's right,
Because
he's
he
in
had
airport.
to fly to San Francisco
That's right.
via Hong Kong.
See, this is how much.
And so he was in some
just saw this
place. that has like Chinese characters, but they weren't speaking Chinese.
No, they weren't.
So
That was weird.
Somewhere Southeast Asia.
I thought it was an interesting little cameo too when Anne got the symbiote. And it's only
Yes.
for like a few seconds.
I kind of enjoyed that part.
Right?
I didn't
and
find
she
that-
looks just like she did in the comic books.
Yeah,
when she
I
was
didn't
Venom,
find that
like,
part. Yeah,
real thick and tall, and then they
it's a
start,
shame they should have gave her more of that though.
they start making out, and you're
then
like, this is kind of hot and weird at the same time, and the symbiote starts taking over.
Maddie
Eddie
turned to
again.
me and she's like, "How much porn is
gonna be written
about this?"
Oh, I'm sure
Honestly,
there's a
the
lot of
three of
fanfic
them-
between Tom Hardy and, Eddie Brock and Venom.
The three of them are going to be in this weird polyamorous relationship
Yes,
eventually. There's no way.
eventually.
Because Venom's into her.
He's into her, yeah.
And
So is
Eddie's
Eddie.
Yeah. But also, Venom and Eddie are in love, basically. That's what that movie showed me.
But they
I
were
just thought
fun
they were
group.
really
They were
good.
fun.
It makes
Friends
the
together.
movie more enjoyable if you look at it as a romantic comedy.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
I
see.
still
There's
want to know
a
how
lot
he's
of elements of that too, like because like he and Anne broke up, and then she's with another guy, but the other guy's super nice.
So you don't want to like.
It's just
And Eddie's really nice to him.
I like the things from the comic books that they kept was the sound. That's his weakness, his sound, because that's
Yes.
how Spider-Man
And
always
I kept-
beat him, was taking him
and
to the
since I-
church bells,
Ugh.
and then the fire. He's weak against fire. That's also from
Yeah.
the comic book. So that was pretty interesting that they kept those things.
And so we mentioned that there's also a after credits sequence, and this one is just more of a fun preview for December, and that's the Into the Spider-Verse. And it was just it started out as a scene from it that went to kind of it was just a little scene, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
it was
And
just a scene.
I wonder
of
if
it.
that scene's going to be in the. I assume it's going to be in the movie.
I
so.
assume it's going to be in the movie. It's just a little short preview of Miles Morales and Peter Parker from the different universe and coming together. So
I think that was my favorite part of this movie.
it was my favorite part
It
too.
those like few minutes way better than the entire Venom movie.
Yes.
It's so sad, but it looks so beautiful.
It looks so
so
beautiful.
beautiful.
December 14th, right? I cannot wait.
I
for that
believe
to come.
maybe a red box rental, or if you got other means to get movies. If maybe I don't know. If
It's
you're a
not
big
one I'll buy.
if you're a big Venom fan, you know you've already seen this. But if you're on the fence,
You may want you might
save your
skip
money.
it.
Go see Lady Gaga movie.
Just watch it as a joke with friends.
And he's not a Lady Gaga stan, so this is not him.
I can't even name
trying
one
to
Lady
find.
Gaga song. Poker Face. Got it.
There you go. Good job.
Um,
Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3.
I would
Watch
much
that in a
rather
heartbeat.
watch Spider-Man
I would
3.
much rather
Wait.
watch Tobey Maguire go like this
Oh, you too.
instead of
I
All right,
love that
so-
scene. I don't care what any of you say. That's a great scene.
Like, that scene was so over the top that I'm like, I've only seen that movie one time. Much
It's on
like
Netflix right now if you want to rewatch it.
Now, to me, the bottom of the barrel to me has always been X-Men 3: The Last Stand. That
Oh, that's
I was
terrible.
like,
Yeah,
I'm done
I
with this
agree.
franchise. I cannot.
Yeah, that's
I can
bad.
that broke my heart way too much, and I've only seen it one time. This is better than that. And so honestly, I think I would probably, I don't know, a 2 out of 5 for me.
That's,
And that's, what about you all?
I think that's fair. I think it's generous, and I think it's fair.
yeah,
Like,
2 out of 5. Yeah. I don't want to give it a
Sad.
3. Yeah, I don't want to give it a 3.
Oh no.
I thought maybe a 2.5.
honestly, it deserves 1.
Yeah, I mean, it just was not for me. And maybe it's not meant for
So
me.
what,
but then again,
what did you say, Maddie?
I give it a 2. I think it's definitely a 1 out of 5. For sure. I think it's that bad. But I didn't feel... If the movie's bad, I usually feel drained at the end. And this time I was like, oh, okay.
All right, so sign us off, Amanda.
All right. So thanks, guys, for watching. As usual, you can check out our other videos on this channel and also subscribe. And then also always hit us up on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NearMintCon. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye.